Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day. You know, at the end of my introduction, many of you noticed the fact that I have a three-legged cattle dog. His name's Cowboy. Now, I get the questions about him every once in a while. Why does he have three legs? All kinds of questions. Why don't we see him more in the videos? Well, the reason really is Cowboy passed away shortly after I shot the introduction for Dino's Tinker Shed. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks after that footage was shot, we had to put Cowboy down. I actually did make a video about Cowboy and what happened, but I've never released it. I've never really felt comfortable, and I didn't really make it for release. I really made it more for my own stress relief. However, recently, one of you commented and asked about Cowboy, and that person was John Trojan, and he asked because he also has a tripod dog. Between that and my good friend Eric over at the Lonely Overlander, who just lost his dog this summer, I decided I would brush the footage off and release it so you can see what happened to Cowboy. It's a bit of a sad story. It's not really one that I like to revisit, but I get a couple questions, so I want to kind of put it to rest. So, without further ado, here's a story about our cattle dog, Cowboy. Suzette, our daughter, and I had owned 4 Cavalier King Charles Spaniels since 1992, and we loved their playfulness. However, we liked to hike and backpack a lot back then, and at times this was a bit much for those fluffy fellows. When our oldest male was about 10, we decided to rescue a dog looking for a home and went to the local Humane Society to see what was available. And this is where Cowboy's story starts. And right at the very end on the right hand side was this black dog that I'd never seen before, that breed, and it was sitting there just looking at me, not aggressively, just intensely. And I read the tag. It said Australian cattle dog cross blue heeler. And I had never heard of either of those two breeds. So I went and I got Suzette and I said, "Come, you got to come and see this dog. He's really intense." And so we walked back and we looked at him, and I sort of got close to the cage, and he stuck his little tongue out through the cage as gentle could be. And I said to Suzette, I think maybe this is a dog we should do a bit of investigative work on. So we asked the handlers, what's the story with Cowboy, which was his name. And they said, well, he was recently brought in by a young man who was about 25 years old who had him in his apartment, and he worked. He was gone for 10 to 12 hours a day, and Cowboy was left at home. And apparently after Cowboy gnawed on the 3rd BlackBerry cell phone this guy had, he had enough, and he brought him in and gave him up for adoption. Suzette and I had fairly good experience. Like I said, we'd had 4 dogs up to this point. We were pretty aware of what puppies can do in terms of damage. So we went home and did some research, and we realized then, as any cattle dog owner would know, that a blue heeler is a cattle dog. And we didn't really think he was purebred because his coat was so atypical from what cattle dogs look like. But he certainly shared a lot of the traits that we read about online. So we grabbed our 2 Cavaliers, Noel and Newton, and drove back to the rescue center. We got Cowboy on a leash and brought him out and introduced him to our 2 Cavaliers. And Cowboy was absolutely uninterested in those 2 dogs at all. He was like that his whole life. And when we took him out around the course, he was at heel right away. Now, we had worked with our Cavaliers, all 4 of them, almost their whole lives at professional training, and never could get them to heal as good as Cowboy did the first time we took him out on a leash. It was unbelievable. So by the time we got halfway around the grass path, we said, this is worth bringing him home and giving him a shot. So we adopted him, and the adoption centers, if you ever have a chance to support your local humane society, I mean, they are amazing. They sent a person around to inspect our yard. They checked it all out, make sure it was fenced and that we were who we said we were. They called our vet, Morgan's Animal Hospital here in Niagara Falls, and they are amazing, amazing vets. And they gave a good referral to them, and we ended up bringing Cowboy home, and he laid down next to our couch, quiet as anything, and relaxed for the rest of the day. We thought, wow, this is an amazing animal. Wow, right? So the next day we woke up and we noticed that his muzzle had swollen. It was swelling up. It wasn't as thin as it was when we first picked him up. We tried to have a look at it. He just would sort of go like this. He was never, ever aggressive. He was an absolute sweetheart, this dog. We called our vet, which we were going to do anyway. We always bring our dogs in for a first checkup, but we've called them and said, look, can we bring him in? Something's not right with his mouth. And they right away said, yeah, bring him in. Dr. Morgan could not get his mouth open. He couldn't get his mouth open to see what the problem was, and we ended up having to actually put him under anesthetic so that he could see what was going on. And what had happened is he had punctured the top of his mouth. And the only thing we can figure is maybe when he was at the rescue center, maybe he grabbed a piece of the fence, or he grabbed something out in the running yard and it punctured it, and they had missed it because it was slowly becoming infected. So Dr. Morgan ended up giving him a really heavy dose of antibiotics, gave us some pills, and sent us home. And the following day, that calm, quiet Australian cattle dog that we rescued was gone. And in his place was a rowdy, rambunctious 9-month-old holy terror that we learned to love, named Cowboy. Now, we brought him to our obedience classes with our Cavaliers, and within about 3 weeks he had basically taken the class over. His fetch and retrieve was spot on. Long fetch and retrieve, perfect. Sit through motion, where you walk with him and say sit and keep walking. He would sit and stay. He would do all of those commands. It was amazing. We fell in love with working dogs very early on in the process. And working is the key word there. He had a job. Every time we would take him out, either for a walk or to the park to fetch a ball, he viewed that as his job. Of course, it was not until I was learning how to fly small RC helicopters in the backyard that Cowboy found his passion for flying things, or rather we found out as he launched himself off of our deck to grab it out of the air. He turned out to be an outstanding frisbee dog, and you could not walk him without Cowboy carrying a disc and pestering you to throw it. Just amazing. We made so many good friends just because people would stop and say, wow, like that dog's amazing. And they would learn about the breed. We would educate them about the breed and how much work they were. And he fit into our lifestyle of camping and hiking a little bit better than the Cavaliers ever did. They really are what they call a wash and wear dog. You bring them home, dust them off, and he's in the house. Whereas the Cavaliers, you would take them outside for 2 minutes and you'd spend an hour combing leaves out of their fur. They're basically a dust mop. Now, in the end, we lost both our Cavaliers about, I guess maybe 2.5 years ago. Our last Cavalier passed away. And we rescued a couple cats, Simba and Nella. And they're fantastic. And Cowboy, he can be a little bit of a bugger sometimes. He'll herd them up the stairs, but they come right back down. He'd never bite them. He just makes them move when he wants to. And about 7 months ago, I guess it was, I had a day off work actually, and I slept in. It was about 7:30, and I had Cowboy on the bed with me and both the cats on the bed with me. So about 7:45, the alarm went off. I sat up, and he jumped off the end of the bed, which he's done 100,000 times probably. Landed on a hardwood floor, and his legs splayed apart. And I thought he had broken his leg. He basically had a left leg that wasn't working. He was limping on 3 legs, and I was horrified. I brought him in. They did x-rays, and the doctor got on the phone, which is what you have to do right now. And he said, look, yeah, he broke his shoulder. It looks like a fracture up there, he says, but it looks to me like he's got bone cancer as well. And it was like a knife in the heart. We just lost our last dog to cancer. So I called Suzette and I said, listen, this is what we're dealing with here. I brought him to our vet. I wanted a second opinion. And they also had x-rays. It took a couple days to get a booking in there. And he limped around the house. We carried him up and down the stairs. And sure enough, they did their x-rays and they said, yeah, it pretty much looks like cancer. There's not a lot of options here. There is basically you can leave it the way it is. He'll be in pain the rest of his life. The leg will never really heal properly. You probably get arthritis. You could put the dog down, which we didn't really want to do, or you could look at amputation. And just the word amputation is enough to make you upset. We were upset even hearing it. What do you mean take a leg off? Like this dog lives to run, lives to fetch frisbees. How can we possibly remove that leg? We watched some videos on YouTube, and after a bit of thinking, we decided maybe amputation is the right avenue to go. And I will tell you right now, we do not regret ever taking his leg off. It was upsetting, absolutely upsetting, but he recovered really well from it. So we ended up going to Mississauga. We did some counseling with them and said, yeah, let's move ahead with the amputation and the chemotherapy afterwards. So we brought him up the day of the operation and waited for him. Actually, sorry, we had to wait overnight. So we called in the morning. They said, look, he's already up. He's on 3 legs. He had already made his decision himself, believe it or not. He never used that left leg after he'd hurt it. He'd already moved on to being a tripod dog. And we went and picked him up. Incredibly upsetting. The scarring, the limping, but he was alert and happy to see us. And over the next 2 or 3 weeks, he learned how to actually navigate on 3 legs. And over the course of the chemotherapy, he did better and better and better. He had no side effects. He didn't have any diarrhea or anything. He would go in, and we got nothing but really good responses from the veterinarians in Mississauga. And we were starting to hope that maybe we would get another 1.5 or 2 years out of Cowboy, because x-rays were showing no signs of new cancer in his lungs or any of the other bone masses, which was really good. Very positive feedback again from the oncology department. So a week before his last chemotherapy, just shortly after we shot the intro video for the series on our web channel here, our YouTube channel, we brought him out to the park, which we had done. We'd slowly been building him back up to doing a bit of work. So every weekend we'd take him out to the park. We'd walk maybe 300 or 400 yards or meters with him. And then eventually he wanted to start fetching his frisbee again. So we started carrying it. And then he wanted to do a bit of fetching. So we would throw the frisbee maybe 8 or 10 feet. And he was getting really good with that. He would run out about 10 feet, turn around, grab the frisbee. We were making one final throw, and he turned really, really fast. He ran out, did a quick turn, and I heard a snap, and his back right leg twisted and broke, which was absolutely gut-wrenching. He'd been beating the cancer, and his leg gave out. And it was 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. So we picked him up, and he was panting and just breathing fast. He was in a lot of pain. And we brought him to the emergency clinic in St. Catharines, who were absolutely incredibly compassionate. Sue rode in the back of our Jeep with him all the way there. And, I remember I lifted him up and put him onto the gurney. Lifted him up and gave him to the vet because the actual doctor was in the parking lot when we arrived. And he said, what's going on? And I explained it really fast. And he said, well, I'll take him in right now and I'll put him on some painkillers. So I passed him over to the vet. And I remember him looking at me on his way in, kind of like, what are you doing? This is like what you did when you took my leg off. It was horrifying. And sure enough, they came back and showed me the x-rays, or showed us the x-rays, and he had basically split his back leg, twisted like a chicken bone, and it was sort of sitting like this. We had no choice but to make the decision to actually euthanize him. And we had done this, like I say, four times before with our other dogs. It's hard. It's hard to put a dog down. And this was particularly upsetting because it was so fast. I mean, we only got into the truck at 7 o'clock. It was, 7:45, and we were looking at euthanizing Cowboy, and we were riding this high of he's beating cancer, and now this happens, another kick in the gut. I'm sorry, I had to step away for a minute. But what really helped us in the end, was words that were given to us from our first vet at Morgan's Animal Hospital. So Todd's father actually told us this. When we had to put down our first dog, we waited way, way too long for that. And I remember going in, finally making the decision to euthanize Zoe, that we would have to do that. And I remember Todd's father saying to us, the last favor that a pet owner can give their friend is to euthanize them when they're in pain. And Cowboy was definitely in pain. Like I said, he never ever showed it. He was kissing Sue on the way to the vet. And so, the way things are nowadays, right now, we weren't allowed to actually go into to the hospital. So they have a tent that was set up, and they brought him out to us outside. And on that beautiful sort of early summer day with the wind blowing, he took his last breath. We love every one of our dogs, but he was really hard to let go. And I wouldn't change anything that we did. I would amputate a leg again. I would go through the chemo again. I would do everything the same to try and give our dog the best chance possible. And we were fortunate enough that we were able to do that. Some of my friends can't, financially or for whatever other reasons. And that's fine too. I mean, I think a dog owner has a responsibility, or a pet owner has a responsibility when they adopt their pet to do the best that they can to provide the best care for those animals. And I'm comfortable with what we did. we get asked a lot, are you going to get another dog? And the answer is more than likely yes. We actually brought a rescue home shortly after. We really had a hole in our hearts here. But she didn't quite fit in with the cats the way we wanted to. She had a little more prey drive than the cats could tolerate. But we will eventually find the right working dog again. We want another cattle dog. We just need the right one that maybe is a little less interested in hunting and more interested in just herding, which cattle dogs are good at. So that's the story of our three-legged tripod Cowboy that we miss a lot. And I hope this video helps explain sort of why you see him in the introduction and you hear him in a couple of our videos that we shot before the accident happened, and why you don't see him anymore. That's the reason. So I just want to let people know, because I do get a few questions about it. And yeah, that's kind of what it is. So everybody have a great day. I don't mean to be a downer. It looks like I got a phone call, so I gotta go.
I can't throw it if you're right there. You gotta go out a bit. Out? Out? Ready?